everyone, my name is Primitiva, and welcome back to another episode of Speculative Evolution Project Pokemon. This is a series where we analyze a Pokemon that grab an animal that's either extinct or alive, and let it go on a hypothetical path, in which it would evolve into something that matches a Pokemon as closely as possible. However, since Pokemon are of course magical creatures, this means that some parts of their biology might be harder to copy into real life, even impossible at times. So far, I've covered the 3 original Kanto starters and made them in real life. So if you haven't checked out those yet, go check them out. They are super awesome. All your votes combined turned into the Gengar line. Now, these are literal ghosts. So how am I even gonna make those in real life? What weird animal am I gonna use? Well, the answer might just surprise you. Oh, and I guess that this also doubles as a Halloweenish episode? I don't know. I just wanted an excuse to dress up. Hence, the look. But let's get into it. Now, usually around this time I talk about the canonical biology of the Pokemon, but I decided to off those parts because, well, they just took up too much time. And plus, you already know what the Pokemon's like. But oof, these 3? Yeah, they're quite something. But I actually quite quickly knew what I wanted to do with these Pokemon. So Gastly, it's a ball of gas, but also a ghost. And then Haunter is just a more advanced version of that with cat ears. And then Gengar is just a fat cat with ghostly features. The 3 Kanto starters at least looked like they were growing up slowly, but with this line, it just looks like all these weird mismatched features resulting in some sort of specter kitty. But one thing that stuck out to me when looking at this line is that Gastly, well, it's just a little ball. But then it slowly gains arms in Haunter, and then it's slowly fully formed with Gengar. And what type of animal grows up like that, where they slowly grow limbs over time until they're fully formed? Well, if you guessed amphibians, you are correct. But I'm not talking about the modern group of amphibians who are called Amphibia. Oh no, we're gonna go back much, much further, to the time of the Temnospondyls. These prehistoric animals are a group of small to giant tetrapods, and are vastly different from modern amphibians, like having scales, claws, and armor-like bony plates. Most of them were still semi-aquatic, but some were almost fully terrestrial, and some even lived in salt water. That's right, marine amphibians! And their sizes, oof, these were big boys. The biggest amphibian alive today is the South China giant salamander, but that doesn't even come close to the Pranosuchus from the early Permian, which reached up to 9.1 meters in length. Or even the Coolosuchus from the early Cretaceous, which reached up to 4.9 meters. Even then, a lot of these were just bigger than the ones alive today, so yet again, prehistory surprises us with its amount of amazing creatures. However, these animals might not be gone forever, as recent studies consider their group to be the ancestor of modern amphibians, specifically the clade known as Dicerophoideae. And whoa, what a great segue, because that's the group that I'm going to be focusing on. The reason why? Well, just have a look at Cacops, a member of Dicerophidae, a family of animals within this huge clade. That fat body, the small tail and big eyes, remind you of anything? If this family can already look like this, we have a really good start. We just have to extend on this and use the wonder of evolution to create what we want. Originally, Dicerophoideae survived up until the early Triassic. Obviously, we want to go further than that, but why did they go extinct? Well, I couldn't find that out, but extinction happened for many reasons. Climate change, stronger competition, loss of habitat, lack of food, or lack of genetic diversity. I can only theorize, of course, but I think that stronger competition, climate change, and perhaps lack of genetic diversity were the biggest reasons that these animals went extinct. The early Triassic was a time for a lot of experimentation, as is any time after a mass extinction, and it's possible better candidates for the niches just appeared, who were also better suited for the dry climate of the Triassic. And finally, they just didn't gain the genetic diversity they needed to adapt in time. But what if they did? After all, evolution can be random. Genetic differences can happen at any time. It's like flipping a coin. You never know what you're gonna get. If you're familiar with my other videos, you know how much I love mass extinctions. Well, not because of everything dying, although that does open up new possibilities for evolution, so I guess? But either way, yeah, we're doing the whole taking advantage of adaptive radiation right after a mass extinction event. Again, you know, gotta activate that super evolution. I know I do it a lot, but come on, it's Pokemon. I'm making Pokemon real. I just gotta go the most realistic route about it. And if that means using the same or similar methods for evolution, then I guess I gotta do that. So let's say that these animals adapt better, and the mass extinction affects it a bit different. Maybe it's got some lucky genetic diversity right after, and therefore is hit less harder because of it. And then in the early Triassic, this group also goes through the motion of adaptive radiation, adapting to more niches and becoming more dominant in the ecosystem. But then, a small group from that family splits off, and does something unique that's never been done before, or at least from what I could find, but it's actually quite common in amphibians, and that is developing poison for self-defense. Because of the mucus-like skin of amphibians, they're quite easily capable of developing toxins, toxins being the thing used for poison and venom, and the common rule is that venom is used for offense and poison for defense. So if something bites you and you die, that's venom. But if you bite something and you die, that's poison. Since Dicerophoideae has been widely accepted to be the group that evolved into modern amphibians, I think it's definitely possible that some members possessed poison, and we just don't know about it. Or at least it's theoretically possible if given the right push. Most amphibians obtain toxins from consuming their poisonous prey, but others like the cane toad just have their skin and other glands on their body being toxic. And what's interesting about the tadpoles of cane toads is that they are incredibly poisonous. This is the approach that I'll be taking. So our amphibian will evolve to become poisonous, but at first it'll just taste slightly bitter. So that means that some predators might just not eat it. But that bitterness will soon turn into just absolutely disgustingness. Like, it'll be super gross. Some predators who are really hungry can still eat them and not die, but it'd be a puke-enticing meal that most animals just don't want unless they're on the edge of death. Naturally, this just increases over time, and just like the cane toads, the larval stage of these amphibians will be highly toxic for those who choose to ingest them. This will result in a lot of successful reproduction and a lot more genetic diversity. It's not as intense as the cane toad's poison, which is capable of killing many animals. It'll be more so about half that good. So a mid-tier poison. Their poison is good for warding off predators, but the time of experimentation is slowly starting to come to an end, as we reach the middle Triassic, where everything is becoming more stable. Soon this poison won't be enough anymore, and they'll have to evolve in other ways. Sure, I can make them like purple poison dart frogs, but fat, and just call it a day. But there's also the factor of Gengar's spines, its size, its ear-like structures, its forward-facing eyes, and its mouth. How do you even replicate those? Well, just size them up. It's simple, yeah, but it's still an effective way of facing off against predators and other animals. It's not clear if there is a size limit to Dicerophoideae, or at least I couldn't find much information on it. I can't see a reason why we couldn't have a Gengar-sized Temnospondyle. A length of 1.5 meters is far from impossible for these beasts. So over the millions of years, they evolved to become bigger and more threatening looking, by also evolving more bright colors, such as, you guessed it, a purplish hue on their body. They're still not too big though, but they make up for that with the horns that they have growing on their head, which they can poof up to make themselves appear more threatening, and they can even let out a screeching noise. I haven't talked about their diet yet, but it plays a big part in their evolution to looking like the Pokemon. At first, their diet wasn't really important. Whatever just worked out in their environment to get to the middle Triassic was important enough, but they were definitely still carnivores. Due to their now much larger size, they're able to gobble up a lot more, and their head and mouth become larger to basically eat any type of prey they can find, similarly to a bullfrog. They use their large tongue to scoop up prey, and crush it within their mouth, filled with sharp teeth used to hold prey in. Forward-facing eyes are common in predators, so its eyes can spot prey better, just like we have the same eyes to spot food buried in the back of the fridge. They will have red eyes to complement their already dangerous-looking purple color, as this will also aid in warding off predators. Poison-wise, it's not as potent as it was before, due to their bigger size, but they still don't taste good, and their larvae can seriously injure some animals. But they're not capable of killing anything with their poison. It's just enough to make predators be wary. Of course, anything that's just hungry might just go for it though. These animals aren't perfect, of course, nor is any animal, but you know, they're doing good in their odd little niche. Wait a second, what about Gengar's bipedalism? Well, unfortunately, bipedalism has never been found in amphibians. In reptiles, yeah, theropods and all. Mammals, yep, us and other primates. But in amphibians, no, never. There just isn't any use to being bipedal when you're an amphibian. I mean, you have to be around the water your entire life, so it's not really a helpful adaptation to have. But even if, like, let's say you need something from the trees, you can just climb. A lot of frogs do this, and they're doing just fine. Now, it'll still look like Gengar, but some Mega Gengar mixed in. So it'll still be quadrupedal, just like any other amphibian. As for how much it'll actually be in the water, well, not much compared to modern amphibians. It'll be mostly terrestrial, but it'll still come back when it's time for mating. I was considering making this animal nocturnal because of Gengar's ghost typing, but that purple it's got rockin' would be much more visible during the day, so it'll be diurnal. Skip forward to the late Triassic, and we got ourselves Toxopatulognathus, the name of this species, which simply means toxic gaping jaws, which just describes its toxic properties along with its big appetite. It's an easy name, but it's effective. And yeah, that's kinda it. There you go, Amphibian Gengar. I honestly didn't think it would be this short to explain it, but guess I was wrong. Let's move on to Ecology now, where I can finally cover Gastly and Haunter. So tadpoles, larvae, baby amphibians, whatever you want to call them, Gastly and Haunter will be those, because otherwise, how am I going to make them work? The tadpoles are black in color, and their tails are purple, which ends up looking like Gastly's gas leaking out, so that animals know that eating them isn't a good idea, as right now is the most poisonous that they'll ever be. Diet-wise, they eat about anything they can find, such as algae, plants, and even smaller animals. Just whatever really they gotta grow. Nothing too special. It looks like Gastly, kind of. I mean, if you look at it, you'd probably think, yeah, that kinda looks like Gastly. You'll probably think less, yeah, that's Haunter, though, for the next stage in their metamorphosis. Their forelimbs develop first, just like salamanders, but they don't have outward gills like them, so they're more like frogs in that way. Haunter is hard, because it's a cat ghost thing with floating hands. Yeah, that's about the closest I could get. Its color is more transitioning to purple now, and its mouth is developing more for that big eater lifestyle. Its diet is still the same, just more. And that doesn't really change until it becomes a full adult, which it reaches at about 25 months old. If they're approached by a predator, they let out a loud shriek along with puffing up their spikes, this making them look even more like Gengar. Some predators find this confusing to deal with, so they just leave it alone. Others might just try for a bite, but if they do, they'll notice that the animal doesn't taste that good and will remember this for the next time. The animals are pretty solitary. They don't really meet with one another, and can get a bit feisty if they do meet outside of breeding, and they might even eat each other if given the chance. I'm happy to say that they don't have any noticeable gender differences, so no necessary ornaments to make them look more like the Pokemon now. And males use their loud mating call to attract females, and one with the best mating call gets to pass down his genes. Males aren't able to differentiate these calls, but the females are. As adults, they spend their days near fresh water, looking for anything to fit in its mouth, using its powerful tongue. If it'll fit, it's dinner time. Then of course they do it, and the female just lays a bunch of eggs in the water. How much? Well, I don't know, it's definitely too much to count though. Larvae will hatch, grow up into adults, cycle repeats, and that's that. Niche-wise, they take care of a lot of populations of small animals, and are generalist carnivores that'll basically eat about anything. Since Dicerophoideae originally survived the Great Dying, and the 3 Kanto starters I covered earlier didn't really seem to interact with these animals in any major way, I'm actually pretty certain in saying that Toxopatolognathus will also live in the Alpha timeline. However, will this animal survive the upcoming Triassic-Jurassic extinction event and walk amongst the huge archosaurs? Well, as always, I'll let you all decide that. And that, everyone, is Gengar. I'm sure a lot of you probably had no idea what I was going to use. I mean, it's a ghost. But honestly, I thought of amphibians almost instantly. I'm curious what you all thought that I was going to go with. And what would you have gone with? Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, let me know which Pokemon line you want me to cover next. Only one though. You have up until the 24th to vote. Then I'll put the most voted comments on my Patreon, and my patrons can decide which one it'll end up being. So if you want to help out my channel a little bit, and have some more influence on my future videos, go sign up for my Patreon. It's only $1 a month. Again though, most of the ideas that I already have are Generation 1 Pokemon, as most people do know what those Pokemon are, instead of, you know, Kling Clang. Again, thank you to Dylan Baja, who designed the Gengar line amazingly well, and honestly, I couldn't be happier with it. So if you yourself have a Spec Evo project you want to see come to life, I highly recommend checking them out. In case you're hungry for even more Spec Evo content, however, I recently started a new series where I cover all 18 types of Pokemon. So far I've covered Psychic, and it looks like the Steel type will be the next one, so go check those out if you haven't. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, and subscribe if you haven't already, which I know some of you aren't, and of course hit that little bell so you won't miss any video the moment it comes out. And with that being said, I hope y'all have a good day, night, or morning, and as always, take care.